Welcome back, everybody, to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, and today I'm going to break down how the Chiefs are handling this pandemic. The Chiefs have had a lot to adjust to this offseason due to the whole pandemic, and in my opinion, they've done a very good job. In this video, I am going to go over some of the safety protocols that the Chiefs have done to attack this virus head on, and I'm very impressed. So, Patrick Mahomes tweeted a while ago that he felt that he was safe and impressed with the safety protocols that both the NFL and the Chiefs put into place. Now, when I first read that, I kind of thought that he was just saying that because he is a vocal leader and the face of the NFL. So if he says, hey guys, it's safe, that means that players would feel like, okay, we can trust this guy and we would feel safe too. Pat was not kidding. The Chiefs released a video on their YouTube channel, and it was by far the best video that I've seen this offseason going over what plan they have in place, because I feel like Roger Goodell has done a pretty poor job of stating what the plan was. I think that he believed that it was just going to pass over in July and August, but as we all know, this is still very much a problem in America. So I think that these protocols are a very good thing, and without further ado, let's go over them. The first protocol that the NFL has put into place is the daily temperature check and COVID test. Now, I personally think that the COVID test is very important, and I think that it's actually more important than the temperature check, just to know that these players are getting tested and they know if they actually get the virus sooner, which is very important because we want to make sure that if somebody on the Chiefs does go down with the virus, that he doesn't infect the entire team, which is very important. Now, the second protocol that the Chiefs have put into place is very interesting. Now, the locker rooms usually are all in one. I mean, the offense and the defense all get dressed in the same room. But now the DBs and the offense have two different locker rooms. I think that's just to kind of spread everybody out a little bit more and to make sure that you're not really getting undressed and passing around that sweat particle and everything that goes along with that in a closely confined area with every teammate, which I think is a good idea. And part of it is actually that the NFL put in like plexiglass to kind of make individual lockers sealed off. So you can still see your teammate, but that just gives you an extra layer of protection, which I think is very important because, again, if we want to see an NFL season, we're going to have to go to every precaution to make sure that this can happen. So I think that was actually very smart. I would not have thought about that at all. And they made Arrowhead into a giant practice facility. They were basically able to make the St. Joseph location down at Arrowhead. It's funny because they're doing a lot of these things on the club level, and most players have actually never been up there. They're eating in the club level. They're going to team meetings. The team meetings are very socially distant. The players are very far apart. The coaches are all apart, and they're all just looking at the projector. And if you're like a tight end, you have a separate tight ends room for film study. I mean, the quarterback's room, the defensive back's room, etc. So the Chiefs are really putting forth their best effort, and they're obviously wiping everything down, but they're also trying to make sure that none of their employees get sick, because once the employees get sick, there's a better chance that that makes it back to the players. So I think this is a good move all around. Now, in my opinion, the final protocol is quite possibly the best. The NFL has come up with a system called the tier system. And basically what that does is it limits the contact between people who have not been tested and the people who tested negative and did not have the virus. There are three tiers. The first tier are people who come in direct contact with the players, such as coaches, trainers, etc. The second tier is people that come into a little bit of contact, but not as direct. So people like, obviously, your chefs and your employees that are just going around the stadium trying to fill up water coolers and just all-around employees. They all have the cards on them that state which tier they're in, which basically ensures that if somebody's not allowed to be near the players, they won't be near the players. And they've also done a pretty good job of contact tracing. From what I've heard, the cards actually have like a microchip in it or something. I could be butchering this, but stay with me. They have a chip in it that once you test positive, it sets off an alarm that basically says, hey, if you've been around this guy within 6 feet of the past hour and a half, we're going to have to talk to you and test you to make sure that you're not positive. If the NFL is trying to utilize this, I think that it would be really beneficial. Here's some of my thoughts. I'm one of the most COVID-conscious people you're ever going to hear. I am very pro everything safety. I think that it's a good thing to have the daily testing. I think that you can socially distance as much as you can, but here's where my one criticism comes in. How can you socially distance if you're a football team? I mean, what are you going to have? The offensive linemen stand 6 feet apart? Are you going to have the quarterback and the running back not come into contact? I mean, there becomes a point where it's just not practical. I mean, again, I'm all for it, but where's the line? Because at the same time, I think that the only way this NFL season can happen is if they can establish a bubble. Look at the NBA. The NBA is working out fine. And the MLB is a prime example of why not having a bubble can really hurt you. Look at the Cardinals. Look at the Marlins. They have like half their team infected with the virus, and they've basically endangered the season for the entire league. So I think the only way that this is possible is if they can establish a bubble, because if that happens, you don't have to socially distance. You're together. You know you're all safe. You know you're all not infected. So at that point, the daily testing is good, but it's not as crucial as if you just let everybody go home and live their regular lives. So I obviously understand why they're doing this. They think that it's better to be safe rather than sorry, and I agree with that. But I think the best chance of the NFL season actually happening is if they can form a bubble. Because if you don't, you are leaving a lot of trust to the players. And if one player or if one team messes it up, the entire league is going to suffer. And that's what we're seeing with baseball. We cannot see this again. And I think that that's why the NFL is just kind of sitting back and watching to see what happens. Because once they see the MLB having these problems, I think it's going to help them develop a better plan to attack this virus head on. So again, let me reiterate my opinion to the people in the comments that are going to attack me. I'm not against social distancing. I think that it's kind of silly, though, that you're going to all this length to stay apart when you're playing a full contact sport where the name of the game is to throw grown men into the ground. I mean, sure, it's fine if you don't have a bubble, but that's why I think that if the NFL formed a bubble, most of the problems would be solved. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you agree with me or do you disagree, and why? Hopefully the NFL can keep making protocols to make sure that everybody's safe. Thank you everybody for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you guys really enjoy the content on the channel, the best thing you can do is subscribe. I would really appreciate that. You can also support the channel through the Patreon. The link to that is in the description. Thank you everybody for listening to the KC Sports Report by Michael Darcy.